Hello again, it's Mr. Pete, your YouTube shop teacher. Thank you for watching, and I'm going full bore to auctions again until I die. I don't care. I'm going to buy a lot of worthless stuff I don't need, but this is part 2 of a 2-part video. Be sure and watch part 1 if you have not, where I already have attended the auction, and today I'm just going over the merchandise that I bought in detail. We'll have a little fun with that. Now remember, I have dozens of auction and sale videos, so I'll put the link to that in the description because those are kind of timeless. I even go back and watch them myself sometime with great interest and pleasure. So let's get on and take a look at this junk. See what I got here. This is the title for my auction playlist. This link is not clickable. I'll put a clickable link in the description. Be sure and check them out. There's about 20 videos. I have no idea why I bought this box of calipers for $45. Most of them are worthless or ruined, and I already have 10 or more dial calipers, but the lure of the auction and the competition and everything drove me crazy, so let's take a look at what I've got here. Really only about one good item in this whole box. Here's a 1-inch micrometer that I will have to throw away. It's totally stuck, frozen. I'm not going to waste my time restoring it. I believe that it was a Monkey Ward's. Let me know if you recognize that logo, but I think that's what it stands for. This would have been a nice micrometer. It even has the vernier scale on the back, but it's really just ruined by improper storage. Most of these dial calipers need to be adjusted such that the 0 will be at the top when you close it. It just drives me nuts. But here's a Starrett without the crown, without the lens, corroded on the back, name on here, but probably a usable tool. Feels a little bit rough, but here's one that I will attempt to restore and possibly use. What else do we have here? Here is a Mitutoyo, no dial, or well, it's got a dial, no crystal is the word I was looking for. Actually, it looks in good shape other than it is absolutely filthy, does not zero the way we just talked about, and someone ground this to fit a certain whatever they were using it for. Probably should throw it away. Would you throw this away if you bought it? That's a good question for you. Here we got, see, these are all name brands. Here we've got, well, what is it? Mitutoyo. I should have looked right here. Again, very dirty. Someone's name on the back. But I believe this one is just fine after a little cleanup. Whoever used these was, well, it was Bubba is who it was. Now here's one that will have to be thrown away, I think. It's a Fowler. See, that's not working right. It's got, oh, I thought it said Bubba. It says Buddy. It should say Bubba. You can see the locking screw is missing, so, probably junk. And in the box, although it doesn't look like it's the correct box for a Mitutoyo, does it? Whoops. This is probably restorable. Now that's about as far as it goes because it's so loaded up with dirt and grit. I think I'll clean this one up and use it. That's not bad. Now one more, and this is really the reason I bought this box. It is a Brown & Sharpe, very clean. Probably still 30 or 40 years old, and it's, let me get my glasses on here, it's Swiss made, so that's a nice caliper. And that was worth the price of the whole box, don't you think? You'll see me using this from time to time this winter. All right, let me know if you think I got cheated on this box. And the man that bid against me and got me that high, I thought I'd get the whole thing for $10, is the man that also bid against me and bought the Logan lathe. Here are some other items that were in that box, and I'm sorry if it makes you mad, but I'm throwing that junk out. I tried to sell stuff like that at a tool meet, and it is not saleable, but there was a good Craftsman center punch and Andrus or something chisel, 3/4 chisel, which are keepable. I am in need of smaller electric motors, so I bought this for $5. I hope it works. We'll test it right now. But it came with this, looks like Menards type of work light. And I just hate those things. I was going to leave it lay, but I asked my son-in-law if he wanted it, and he said he would take it off my hands. But those things will burn you up. They're just hotter than a pistol. They're heat lamps is what they are. Let's see if this motor works. What number was I at the auction? Oh, 70. Okay, let's see if this $5 Dayton half horsepower capacitor start motor works. It's a 1725. I'm surprised this is half horse. I don't believe it. You know, it's just so lightweight. Half-inch shaft. I'm always leery when I see the cover removed like that, so I'll have to make a cover, but I got my test leads on there. Let's fire it up, see if it smokes out. Here we go. Fire. Oh, starts right up, hums along. I'll polish the shaft, and this is ready to use on a project that's coming up. I bought this big old ammeter, Westinghouse, for $2, and I really had to laugh. I chuckled. The auctioneer called it a dial indicator. Westinghouse, and it looks like it was mounted on a panel in a powerhouse, but 400 amps, holy mackerel. If you hooked it up to any machine that I own, it wouldn't even deflect the needle one bit. But when I bought this, included was a brand new brake rotor. I don't know what the application is, and I don't know why I took it other than it's heavy enough and it's kind of pretty. I thought maybe I could use it as a base for something. If not, I'll give it to my friend Clark in Mississippi to melt down. I bought this little trolling motor for $5, and they had 3 of them. One was brand new in the box. Now, why did I buy this? Well, for 2 reasons. Number 1, it's an Electropal. I'll show you the label here in a minute, and then we'll see if it works. But other than sentimentality, I intend to take it apart and take the armature out and use it as I make a video about the growler. But let's take a look at Electropal, and I'll tell you a little story if you can take it. While I was in graduate school, I worked for Osborne Engineering in Bloomington, Illinois, and we made Electropal motors, trolling motors. Now, they were sold through many different outlets, Sears, Ward's, Penny's, Western Tire, and so on, and under that private label of Electropal. But now the company obviously has been sold to somebody down in Texas, and just about everything is plastic. But when I was working there, and I tell you, I learned more probably on that job about machining than I did any other place in my life. I worked with some great people, but the housing, everything was sand cast. There was barrels of these housing, but much larger than this, and heavy duty, and the bracket that held it onto the transom was incredibly complicated compared to this, although this does look like a sand casting. But collars, I ran thousands and thousands of collars like what you see here. And then the foot, I call that the foot, was a sand casting, and that's where I first learned about core drills, when we would drill this hole out larger than what this diameter is, and the motors were made there in-house with laminations. I can still see women pressing the laminations onto the shafts, and I'm the one that made the shafts that went into the motor. All right, enough, who cares? Let's go see if this works. All right, this is temporarily hooked up to my Cub Cadet 12-volt battery. Let's see if it runs. It's a 2-speed motor, no reverse. I suppose you rotate the entire thing in the bracket to get your reverse, but watch the propeller. And the propellers were cast aluminum, sand cast aluminum that we used. There it is. Well, there'd be no reason why it wouldn't work, but you know, that motor is totally encased in plastic. We used O-rings at Osborne to seal them, and I think they tested every one to see if it was waterproof by pressurizing them. All right, enough on that, because that's going to be sawn apart. There's no way to get that apart. I'm going to have to saw that with a hand hacksaw. Not in this video. Okay, I bought this down in the cellar. Boy, that was a stinking bad cellar in that place, wasn't it? And it's kind of rusty. I paid $10 for it. One other guy bid $5, and I bid 10. And I don't know what it is. I thought that it was an Atlas, because I do have an Atlas. You probably have seen it. But this is much heavier than the Atlas. And this looks almost like a lathe compound. And that steel plate was on there, and I've taken that off. But I believe now that rather than being an Atlas, this is a Logan. Well, why do I say that? Well, because it was near the Logan lathe. The color right here and the shape of this looks like a Logan. But in some ways, this looks like a compound of a lathe. And this will rotate. There's a little protractor down there. But looking at the bottom, I don't know if that went on the lathe. And if so, I don't know why. And I've looked in a catalog that I had as far as Logan is concerned, and I cannot find this. So if anyone knows what it is, let me know. And right here, I've got to get some light on the subject. Down in here is a very unusual nut, and it's brass, and it doesn't look very hefty, but you know, because it comes in from the side, it's mounted right here, rather than the way it is on a lathe compound. So that just seems a little bit strange to me. These cranks are heavy iron. They're not Zamak, so we know that this is not an Atlas. Needs a good cleaning up. Very small, hard to read collars like the Logan. And this is a little different though as far as adjusting it to 0. It's got a knurled nut there, which Logan lathes do not have. Now I've loosened up the 2 lock bolts. You can see that turns around. Apparently all the way around. Well, it's hitting something there. But what I do not understand here is this dovetail slide is asymmetrical. And that probably has something to do with that weird nut that I just showed you under there. So I won't carry this any farther, but if anybody knows what this is, put it in the comments, because I'm glad I bought it. I like something like this that is unusual, even if I never do use it. Okay, we got one more item to cover. At the very last moment in the auction, just before I left, I bought this little Craftsman compressor. Why? Because I was hoping it would be quieter than the one from Horrible Freight. So I want to show you the Horrible Freight one now that I've had for 5 or 6 years and say just a few things about it, and then we'll start this up and make sure it runs. I bought this from Horror Freight 5 years ago, and here's what I don't like about it. It is loud. I mean, it must scream at 110 decibels, and I kind of figured that it would. Also, it will not start in the winter at all unless you totally drain the air out of it. As a matter of fact, most of the time it won't start even if there's only about 25 or 30 pounds. So you got to bleed her down. That's what I don't like about it, and you shouldn't have to. But other than that, this is the only compressor that I've ever owned or worked with, any place, that holds the pressure. If you come back 5 years from now, it'll still have 90 pounds in there, whereas every other compressor I have had quickly leaks down and you have to fire it up each time you're going to use it. Okay, I paid $15 for this, and as I was wheeling it to the car, a man stopped me. He was a family member there at the auction, and he said, well, you got a bargain on that. I said, well, yeah, but if it works. And he said, oh, it works. And he said they did something to it. Now, I'm not going to check the oil before we start it, because this beautiful set of directions here say that it is permanently lubricated. So let's plug it in and see if it works. It kind of looks like something that Sears made when Roebuck wasn't looking. There we go. Uh-oh. She's blowing smoke. Hasn't blown the breaker yet. I don't get it. Does it stink? Well, I got screwed again, didn't I? Buyer beware. I don't get it. It's not pumping up. It's running, but it's not pumping. There's virtually no pressure. Well, let's try it one more time. Now it won't start at all. You see the lights dim? Well, you know, you win some, you lose some. So I'm out 15 bucks. The cost of 3 cups of Starbucks coffee, as if I would ever buy Starbucks coffee, which tastes like creosote, by the way. So hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure and watch part 1, and I'll have many, many more videos. I'm going to another auction in about 2 weeks, so watch for that as well. This is Mr. Pete saying, so long for now. I hope I can get up off the floor without help. It really does pay to buy the best. I wonder if the Craftsman warranty is still in effect. I wonder if Sears is still in business. I won't mess with it. I'm throwing it out, but I think I'll save the controls.